When we're talking about the grains here, we've got quite a few we talk about, grains and oil seeds. That's, corn, and we put beans in there, wheat. We even throw cotton in there, even though it's not a grain. It's part of that row crop, right? But here are a few others that we try to touch on at least once or twice throughout the day. This market has been lower the last 4 sessions. Canola. Yeah, canola futures, and you can see we've really been under pressure here in that canola market. The oats market has been under pressure as well. We were lower on oats back on Friday, and we're in mixed territory right now. And then we have the rice market. We've had some stories already today on rice and just the pullback in planted acres. Now, fewer acres of rice and more acres planted this year of canola. And speaking of acres and planted and where we're going with this year's crop, we'll find out in about a week. USDA out with their next World Ag Supply Demand Estimate. We call it the WASDE report, and that comes out on next Wednesday, the 12th. Now we're watching corn back into positive territory, 465 and a half, penny and a half higher. We're watching soybeans trying to break a 3-day losing streak. We're not quite there yet. 1184 and 3/4, still down 2 3/4 cents. Wheat market. Well, wheat, we're a penny 3/4 higher, 641 a bushel. Hard red trading a penny lower, 706 and a half. And we'll wrap it up with the cotton market down 93 points at 80.86. Let's go back to corn and to Maryland. Whitehall, certified crop advisor with the mill. It's Ben Hushon, and Ben, looking good so far.
Good morning, Tony. Yes, it is, but it's also a great time. If you think about it, I believe 3-4 weeks ago, we were in a cornfield together and we were all focused on diseases, but there's a whole lot. So that was because we were approaching tassel. Clearly, the majority of the corn in our region has passed that stage and that perfect window for fungicide application. But there's an awful lot to be learned if you park the pickup truck and walk out in these fields and start looking at what the lower leaves are telling you. That in this case, I believe we might have run out of potassium for the viewers. And in other cases, you can see some various diseases. You can see where you may or may not have run out of nitrogen. All this by simply getting out when corn is beautiful and green like it is right now. And Tony, it does not hurt that it's about 75 degrees and almost no humidity, at least for those of us who are used to Maryland weather. It feels like there's no humidity. But the other thing for the viewers who might be shaking their head going, boy, what's wrong with that corn Ben's standing in? This is the new short corn that is starting. I know it's pretty big in the Midwest. It's also moved to the east. This happens to be bare. Pretty sure Stein has something similar. And believe it or not, this is as tall as it typically gets when things work well. So it gives you a lot more opportunity potentially to get back in this field, do some foliar feeding. The other thing that I believe still drove the production or the development of these varieties the most is much less chance of windstorm damage. You've got, for better or worse, I've heard complaints about this, but you got the ear down just above your knee. But I tell you what, we planted this at 38,000 because that's what they suggested. We've got 16 rows around of corn, which is great. It's not as long, but again, at 38,000, you wouldn't expect that. So lots to learn. When you first step in this field, you go, boy, that's a short ear. Then you count the population and go, 38,000 of these ears could turn out pretty nice. My wild guess at this, with a quick scan this morning, easily north of 200 bushel, which would be pretty odd if this field here didn't turn out at least 200 bushel the last 4 or 5 years.
Wow. And by the way, just to put it into perspective, because different parts of the country will face different challenges, but what is considered, as far as yield, what is considered a home run?
Oh, home run is going to be the upper 200s. The field, the farm I'm on currently, I think averaged 265 last year, which that's dry bushels paid. That's not the blip on the radar or on the yield monitor that you saw pass by. But a lot of farmers anymore that are pretty serious about it and have good ground. If they're under 225 in a field, they're really doing some digging to unless it's deer damage. That's a whole nother program, Tony, that we could talk on.
Well, maybe that's one that we'll queue up for our conversation after harvest, and we'll dig a little deeper into some pest issues. Deer. Ben, great to see you. Ben Hushon is with the mill. All right, back in a moment. I guess you could say deer are livestock, right? Well, we don't trade deer futures, but we do trade cattle and hogs. That's next on Market Day Report.